Whoops. What's up, dudes? Came over to my buddy Chase's shop. He's got some things going on his new project. What is this?
So this is a 2005 Harley Sportster Roadster
1200?
1200 XL.
Is it 12?
Yep.
Why am I sitting so low? I feel low.
Some of the seats, I think,
This one might be.
yeah, it'd be one of those ones that
Well, it's your shop. You should know.
decides to.
When did this motorcycle thing start happening? Have you always ridden?
No, I rode dirt bikes a couple of times growing up, but that is the extent of my riding. I guess it was just want to check it out, want to ride, have a little fun.
I wanted to know where did all this come from? Did you see a movie? It always comes from somewhere, right?
Yeah, so I've always thought riding motorcycles was cool. And I guess now I'm grown enough, I can, I have my own money. I can go spend it on whatever I want.
Right.
I kind of have my own responsibilities, take care of everything.
Right.
And then what really got me thinking, as wild as it sounds, I'll have to play it for you later. But there's a country song. My buddy rides a motorcycle in South Carolina. He goes to school out there. Anyway, I was listening to it, and it reminds me of my buddy. I think last year it was. He died after he's Army buddy that was in my platoon. He got hit on his motorcycle and died. Anyway, I listened to it. Kind of makes me think of him. Makes me think of my other buddy, and I was like, I gotta get on a bike. So, as wild as that sounds, that's kind of the.
I don't think it does sound that wild. We were talking about it, but motorcycle clubs as a whole started from dudes coming home from the war.
Right, you were telling me a little bit about that.
Yeah. They didn't want to assimilate to regular society because after like World War II and shit, you're not regular society anymore. So from what I've read, and I have read, surprisingly enough, I read about more like outlaw and shit, stuff like that. But it was just dudes who wanted to be around dudes like them. And then that progressed into, some other things. But I was telling you that earlier, that dude from the American Motorcycle Association said that 99% of people who ride motorcycles are law-abiding citizens who just want to be out on an open road. And then there's that 1%. Well, 1%ers kicked up and, they wore that as a badge of honor, which is, pretty cool. But I don't think it's all that weird, right? Because like my dad growing up was an outlaw biker. And it always seemed, I know it's like cliche, like the freedom, but dude,
It's true.
Cracking down the fucking highway or whatever, it's different than being in a vehicle.
Just like, yeah, I don't know.
How long have you been riding?
Now for what, 3 weeks?
Okay.
Something like
You
that.
already got it.
I put 100 miles on it yesterday. I'll finish up 100 miles today.
Yeah. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, it's
And there is freedom to it. It's real.
yeah, I don't know what it is. Just riding in a car all the time seems like the norm. Like that's just what everybody does. That's just what you do. And then it's almost like getting on your toy, or some people go to the gym or go for a walk out, whatever that is. It's the same feeling, just at 80 miles an hour.
Way better. Though,
Yeah. Yeah, for me. I mean,
it's well, and so I know you got a couple buddies who ride
correct,
like street bikes and shit like that. But when I rode, it was so much fun to be by yourself. But there is another level when you got some buddies with you.
Yeah.
And it's that platoon. You guys, Chase did the podcast with me. It wasn't video. Just to go back to YouTube or whatever, Spotify, and it's Chase Schoeller. We did the podcast together. So he's a former Army fister. You'll listen to the podcast and you'll find out what fister is. But it's that it is that same camaraderie and platoon thing. So you can understand why those dudes back then were like, I don't want to be like all of this.
And it's all the personalities from the platoon
Yeah.
expressed here.
Exactly. Some are dirty, rotten scoundrels, but they're fast and they get the
Loud
job done.
and they're
yeah.
Right. All my buddies, all their sport bikes are all new. Like, and this isn't anything bad, but they're all new. They're quiet. They're comfortable.
Perfect.
They're right, and reliable. I mean, all that stuff. For me, that is just not. That's just not me. And for me, going out and buying a bike and hopping on it, riding it is like going and buying a new car. I think anybody can go do it.
Yeah.
I built some like street cars in the Army, and they were always just. It started out, I guess, when I was younger. I had the money to make one of two things happen. I could either make it like fast and loud, or you can make it pretty.
Right.
I didn't have the money to do both.
Yeah.
So I always opted for the fast and loud side of things, and I wouldn't say it's like cut corners, but you do.
Well,
you do kind of save here and there.
Is $12,000 in a paint job, or a new supercharger or whatever?
Right. Put a new motor in
fast.
it. Yeah. Do some crazy. Right.
Yeah.
Doing a wheelie with a spray paint job, I don't think matters.
No.
A wheelie's a wheelie.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's
who cares?
horsepower.
Right. So that's kind of how it was with the bike. So, I didn't pay a ton for the bike. Also learn how to ride, but all the stuff that I've personally done to it, which isn't a ton, but has all been like Facebook Marketplace buys.
Yeah.
Spending, some nights here, some late nights here, just working on it. And
in your own garage?
tweaking on it. Yep. And just doing the thing. And so that's a lot of fun for me, because if I had to spend money on brand new parts, a lot of the fun stuff wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I can't go back and forth.
Right. Well, and like I was telling you earlier, you have a background in mechanics and automotive and shit like that. So having the shop that you do with so much available, you are able to express yourself. For instance, where did you come up? Where did this?
So I was looking at some intakes for motorcycles, and most of them are a big kind of a round deal.
Which I'm going to cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
I still think the old school S&S
chrome oval,
the teardrop, I still think those are cocked, but
I don't disagree. I just see everybody running them.
No, you're right.
Everybody runs something similar.
Yeah.
And as cool as it is, again, I don't think it takes a whole. I mean, you put some hours in at work, but that's about it to buy new stuff or to buy something that everybody else has to match.
It's click and pay.
Right. Everybody works. Everybody makes money. Everybody does that.
Right.
And for me, that just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like the right move. So at this piece, I saw some intakes online that are similar. They have more of a cone style filter on the front versus the straight one. But the ones I wanted, and really the cheap ones to get like a good one, I guess, you're looking at somewhere in that $300 to $500 ballpark.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but then when
I
I want to put new pipes on and I want to put a seat and I want to put, the Springer front end eventually and get the bigger tire, like put white walls, all of that, I can save a ton, hundreds of dollars to invest in other stuff.
What do you got into that?
So into this,
Yeah.
This filter is like $30 or $35.
The filter's the most expensive part.
This was a $20 piece of.
Is that just 2-inch exhaust?
I think it's 2.5-inch stainless.
Just exhaust pipe though, or just
it was just
pipe?
a 90 stainless turn.
Yeah,
is all it was when I bought it. And then this round flange here, we just had laying around
in your own shop.
And then the actual flange that bolts the carburetor, that was on this bike when I got it. It was one of those round style filters.
Right.
So I just utilized this flange, built this, and then mated the two together to make it work.
Yeah, it was bitch.
So I have like $50 or $60.
Yeah.
Versus,
and S&S was what? 3-4?
Oh, I don't know what the S&S. There's other brands.
But in general.
Somewhere in the $300 to $500 ballpark.
Yeah.
I saw some really, really inexpensive ones on eBay for like $120.
Yeah.
But even that's half of that.
Right.
And I think there's none that are gold like that. None that are stainless. They're all like a lighter aluminum.
How'd you achieve that gold look? That's not the way it came, right?
No. So we had stainless. It was just like a normal silver chrome color, piece of pipe.
Stainless.
And so I actually watched a YouTube video. There's a guy called Cletus McFarland, and they put Cletus
It's a
McFarland.
hell of a name.
And they put headers on I forget what it was. They put headers on a car. They're starting up for the first time. Some guy sprayed a rag with WD-40, wiped the headers off while it was warming up, and they turned them gold. So I found out that if the pipe's hot and you hit it with WD-40, it dyes it. I'm not really sure how it works, but it turns it gold.
It's got to be good to breathe in.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So heated this up and soaked it. And it took us a couple tries, but we ended up achieving this really dark gold color, which is awesome. And then the clamp I found out was stainless, so did that as well.
Yeah.
And then we put some gold hardware in here just to kind of match and give it a kind of that rat rowdy look to it.
That's a good idea. And like we were talking about, dude, somebody else has something like that, but no one else has that one.
Right. And so far, I'm a big YouTube guy. When I look for DIY kind of
course.
things, how to do something,
I
some
fucking
ideas.
YouTube everything.
Right. Yeah, it's a great source. But I hopped on a bunch of forums, a bunch of Facebook pages, YouTube, trying to find somebody who had made one to give myself a little inspiration or kind of
Ideas, yeah.
kind of a path
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of follow. I couldn't find one. It's like this. Some people put like a rubber coupling like you see on a car
Oh, yeah.
and just smashed it. And again, to me, it was real simple. It was a real easy, quick fix.
Yeah.
Didn't seem that cool to me, I guess. So got the wild idea to build something
Why not?
and we got it whipped up. I think it looks killer.
Yeah. If you have the stuff to do it and the know-how, why not make your own? Because it could have come out a lot worse, and then you would have turned that into something better. And then, and
Just keep
and
building
and
on
the
it.
other way, right?
Yeah.
So say you fucked up the first one. Well, now all right, I'm gonna have to bend it or
Right, we were talking
stitch
that.
weld it somewhere else.
Yeah, like I hit the rag right here with that WD-40, and then the rag burnt to the pipe. So right here's a little off color, but it kind of gives it some character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cooler that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfectly level, right? Because I had the bike at home, took some measurements, and winged it when I got here. Or like we took a chisel and hammered a little stamp, so that flange if it's backwards,
Right.
and you also know it's up when
Yeah.
you bolt it together because
Yeah.
it only fits one way.
Yeah.
There was not a whole lot of perfect measuring to this. It was
Yeah.
a lot of
But that's
Kinda
like
eyeballing.
chopper, like I've been telling you. Like
yeah.
So I grew up with it. When I did see my dad, his bike, it was fucking bitch. It was he built the frame, St. Louis D-raker, jockey shifting, bad motherfucker. It was a runner. It was a screamer. And so that thing was in my kitchen a lot when I would be at his house. It wasn't that often, but and so like I've been around it a long time, always been kind of into choppers and shit. But that, like you were saying, that fine line between like pretty and then dirty. So I came up in the late 90s, 2000s with all the Discovery Channel. You were a little younger, but Discovery Channel was West Coast choppers. I mean, Jesse James took a Billy Lane, all these dudes. They were so much, choppers got so popular where they used to be counterculture and subculture and not the dude next door didn't have a chopper. He had a Harley, like
Right.
a bagger, but he didn't have like a fucking
Didn't build
breaked out chopper. And so it became real mainstream, which is always a bummer to me. Like I'm weird. Like I don't like music when it's popular, but then like way later, I'm like, oh, that's good. It's kind of like, I don't know. But growing up like that, some of these dudes just had the dirtiest, rattiest choppers, but they always fucking ran just hard. And I mean, it was wild to get to see growing up. And so that was why 2007, I'd been out for a few years. I was like, I didn't have a lot going on. So that's what I did. There were a couple of us that had an idea. I was going to go to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute and be a motor guy. But I always had the ideas without the knowledge. My old man was an iron worker for 20 years, never taught me a fucking thing about welding, which is always something I was into. So I had the ideas, but then I just didn't know how to translate them like you have. And how.
Yeah, you helped me be that middleman.
Yeah.
Because I have the bike right now and I have some skills.
Yeah.
But the idea stuff is all
Yeah.
new.
It's new. Right.
Right.
And so these are things I've been thinking about for a long time because So when I graduate MMI, I get home 2008. What's that called? The housing crash fucking thing. I had a job waiting for me at shop here. They were trying to keep the lights on in the motherfuckers. Everybody was closed. Everybody was selling bikes. So that went nowhere. It was 18,000. I mean, I had a blast in Phoenix for 2 years. It was some of the best time of my life, but I never really used any of it. And so all those ideas just got like shelved. Right. And then I ended up getting a chopper. It was great. Had a lot of fun on it. Started having kids, and then I made promises, and it's just what it is, you know. But so the creative part, like I was telling you, the one buddy of mine, have you seen any yet with the big fat front tire? It looks wild. It's a completely different look than there's a dude called named Russell Mitchell. He's Exile Cycles, but that's one of their staples. And I mean, I'm talking about these front tires are as wide or wider as your rear.
Wow.
And it kind of throws you off at first because you're used to this. Mm-hmm. But the ride on it, so my buddy built one, dude, and it was like he got this shitty like double like Dyna tank, and it was supposed to have tacks and shit going up in the middle of it like a key. None of that was there. It was just tanks. And the dude that he bought it from, it had like a Jesus sticker on it. This dude was far from anything Jesus, but just ratty. He put an ATV thumb throttle on it as his throttle. And you think like, that dude, you can't ride that way. It was fucking awesome to ride that way, especially cruising long distance because you're not wrapping, you just thumb it, you know? Mm-hmm. But it was just a big, giant, nasty motherfucker. And I remember he never wanted it to be clean, like ever. And I was always like, that's the way it's supposed to go. You know, again, dude, I'm cool with both ways, but
right.
Have you, what do you think about riding around a lot of people? Have you ridden in a lot of traffic and shit yet?
I try my best to avoid rush hour. I have a little bit. It's probably not the smartest idea, but there is like a little bit of bro science when it comes to being like an aggressive defensive driver.
Sure.
I don't necessarily want to be just an aggressive driver and fly through traffic and lane split and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's like super like advantageous to create that like safe environment for yourself,
of course,
when you're riding. And sometimes you have to be aggressive about that.
Yeah.
To put yourself in a defensive position.
Yeah.
Because I also don't find a lot of joy in the whole time just worrying about every car or worrying about being super tight. So like getting out into the open or finding, kind of getting through traffic a little bit to get to an open space just seems like the move most of the time.
For sure.
But ideally, I try to stay away from traffic. And
at your level with time and riding, it's probably a good idea to do anyway. Come out here on these country roads and watch for fucking raccoons. But
yeah,
like I told you, I always consider myself passive aggressive when it came to riding, because it's like, if I'm going faster than everyone else, I at least know where they're not, if I'm saying that right. Like, I just get the fuck out of their way. Now I don't have to deal with you idiots. There's going to be somebody else coming up on their phone here in a little while, but I don't know. That was, I kind of started in my drug days at the end of my motorcycle riding days, which I'm glad that was about over anyway, because you can't be awake for that long and like,
right.
All fucked up and going as fast as you possibly can. It was a bad idea altogether, but dude, like we were talking about, people are not looking. Now everybody's got the what's the thing on your side mirror to tell you something about your blind spot deal?
There's like a little light that kicks on.
People just look at that thing and go, nobody's there. And it's like, dude, electrical shit fails all the time. And like old people, I get it, dude. Sometimes like your back or something could be fucked up, right? And you can't, but like, I still cannot, I barely trust to back up the reverse camera in my truck.
It should be like an aid. Like, it helps what you're already doing.
Yeah.
It's not a replacement.
Yeah. Not 100% reliable. Your eyeballs are. But people are just, you've seen as much as I have, dude, just full on texting and like watching videos. And it's like, dude, So I don't know. There's a huge part of me, especially that you've had this around and like smelling it and hearing it and everything else. It's like that. It's not gone.
It brings you.
Yeah, it's definitely not gone. It's just that I told people I wouldn't do it anymore. So
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of guys. I'm not necessarily super young, but I don't think there's a ton of dudes my age that are sitting around tinkering and building. Like, there's guys riding bikes and stuff like that. But it was the same way I felt when I was doing cars.
yeah,
A lot of guys they'll buy like a new car and they'll spend the money for a shop to upgrade it. So they have a fast car, it's clean, whatever, but shops built it. Something breaks on it, take it back to a shop. Like, they don't necessarily know. And I find a lot of pride and I have a lot of fun building them.
yeah. Well, when you've touched every nut and bolt on that thing, you go, you know what? I fucking remember when I was doing this, and I don't think I tightened that down or whatever the situation is. But I don't know, and probably younger than you. But there's an age group right now, like I think younger than you, but I don't really think people are that jacked on driving like they used to be. Like 16 was
Like cruising.
well, no, just getting your license because there's so many other
yeah.
options. Now, what the fuck would I drive for? Like kids, friends, kids, and shit like that. There's like, I'll get it when I get it. I'm like, dude, you're 16 and a half and don't have your license. Like that was the
dream.
yeah. My birthday's Christmas Day, so I had to wait until whatever they open, and it happened to be a weekend, so I had to wait like a few extra days.
And
I
New
was
Year's.
fucking nauseous about it, but the first chance I got. As a matter of fact, I drove my mom's car up there with my buddy who had a license, and I take the test and I'm leaving, and I've got the keys, and she was like, how did you get here? So I drove. She was like, it's illegal for you to drive without a license. I'm like, yeah, well, I got a license, So it was just over. Where's Big Ben? Come on in, bro.
Man.
What's going on?
I don't want to interrupt the recording.
Oh, fuck, you ain't interrupting nothing.
No, you're good.
What are you getting?
I was warming that bait up in the sink.
Oh. Hey, what did we eat earlier? Channel? Flathead. That was killer.
Yeah, you got it.
We probably should have saved some for Chase, but
No.
I couldn't.
No, that's all right.
I didn't know.
We got catfish in there we can fry up.
Yeah, but it's not. What? Flathead? What is it? Channel. I didn't know any of this. You did, and Ben told me. Oh, this is Ben, the former corrections officer of the other podcast that we did a while ago. This is Big Ben. So now you get to put a face to the name. But I didn't know that the flatheads only eat live food.
Yep.
Didn't know that until today.
Yep.
So that's what makes them better, because they're not
Seems to.
just eating shit.
Seems to. And they get to, 100 pounds. So that one that we ate earlier had a long way to go.
Do you really think that there are some? We're in Chase's house, but do you think like out on the river, below a dam, do you really think there's some down in there that are like the size of?
No.
You don't.
No.
You don't think they get that big?
No.
I think they do.
I think
I'm
so.
just going with it.
Some river monster.
I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going with the fact that they get to the size of a Volkswagen. But that's what I've heard before.
I
It
don't
sounds
think-
so ridiculous. It's got to be true.
I don't think they live long enough to get that big.
You don't?
No.
Why? Wouldn't they just sit at a place like that with their mouth open and just get food?
Well, I've caught flathead big enough that the tops of their heads like are yellowish color because they do just stay down for so long. They just kind of wait, and people have been catching fish for.
Somebody would have got one by now.
Somebody would have seen something, I would have thought.
Oh.
I've heard of people going down doing maintenance and shit like that on dams, and they said, "Oh, we seen something. We'll never go back in there." I'm not buying
You should
it.
go.
I could be wrong.
You should go down there and look. It's like the Loch Ness monster. It's real.
It could be.
It's
Shut
really
some gates off one night.
yeah, it's really. Let's go diving. Let's go out to the river and dive in the dark sometime.
Oh, that sounds like a horrible idea.
Fuck all that. All right, buddy. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. We need some more food. It was killer. We did flathead, asparagus, and rice. Ben has been. We didn't get into that on the podcast, but he has been catfishing since I think he was old enough to hold a fishing pole. So, he's got all kinds of time on the water. So what else? What's your plans? What are the other? What is next? Front end?
Well,
Oh yeah,
we got to finish this up.
yeah.
So we were
This was a little weird idea you come up with.
Yeah. So with the Sportsters, they all have this big seat. It's over here. Yep. They all have this big seat that sticks way, way back. Other way. Sorry. Yep. And one, I'm not having a passenger, and two, I want to get rid of most of this fender somewhere here in this blue line here.
You don't ever want to have a passenger?
No, I don't plan on it.
Dude, chicks love these things. I know you got a girlfriend, but
If I'm just riding, man, this is just for me. This is my enjoyment. But so to make this happen, you have to get a shorter seat. Now, this is an 05. So 05s have this, we'll pull off here in a second, have this little box underneath. I don't really know exactly what the box is.
Something electrical.
Something like that. I know the wire for the taillights come out of it, but that box sticks up above the frame.
I'm right in the shot, probably.
What's that?
I'm probably right in the shot.
Oh, it's all
You're
right.
good.
So this box sticks up above the frame. So I was doing a lot of looking around, was going to buy a seat. But again, same thing kind of as this other stuff here. One, they're super expensive, but two, the other kicker was they only make these solo seats with a lip on it for the 07s and up, because the 07 and up, that little box is recessed enough to where the frame is the highest point. So they make those seats so the seat sits on the frame.
Mm.
Well, I can't find one that sits up high enough to clear that box. So,
which, by the way, this has got to be the 1 year or model or
I think
whatever
it's 0405
that has that.
Right.
Because generally the case is it sits on the frame.
Yeah.
I think.
That seat there has a little, I don't know, like a little cubby hole, notched out area.
Yeah.
So when I learned that, I've been doing a ton of looking around. I see a bunch of guys on Instagram and Facebook pages that have the seats that I want. Excuse me. But they're all 07 and older or newer bikes. So like 08s usually have, the ones that I've seen have that seat. So again, we're kind of back to square one, that I want the seat, I want the lip in the rear. I want a solo seat, I want the lip in the rear. And I want it to sit low on the bike, not be real big and fat like that other one, a little bit slimmer. So to check all those boxes, I was kind of left with making one. And I've never made a seat before. So
You've never made any of this shit before.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Nothing on a bike I've ever worked on.
Yeah.
So this is all pretty new. So yeah, I kind of just
16
looked
gauge?
at some YouTube videos, and not a bunch of folks have YouTube videos on how to make the metal seat pan. They have some videos on how to do the upholstery, which is another venture that we have to dive into.
It'll be cool.
So I just kind of had a little wild idea and bought some metal and stuff, and got a pretty decent shape to it, and did some welding and got the little tabs welded on. It's super solid now.
I'm going to get the camera and bring it a little closer.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Just deal with it.
We ended up making the seat pan, and then we needed to create a space for that box. Now, without these nuts and bolts, it would still have the space. There's one stud in the rear, and there's this mounting bracket up front. We thought it'd be a pretty killer idea to put something kind of unique in here, kind of different.
Well, because it was just going to be like a bar, right? Just
right.
to take up
we were
space
just going to put like a
give you
solid
support.
bar. Yep. So then we found some bolts that fit about right, and then we had these nuts on here that right now they're loose, so they all loosen up. But if you notice, this bolt touches and this one does not. There's a bunch of air underneath. So it was either buy longer bolts and cut them all custom to fit, or we decided to put these nuts on here, and what we'll do is end up Loctite them in place. But if we run these down at each individual length, they'll sit on the frame, it'll provide the support, and it'll have that same look that we were going for. It's It's super rigid. It's pretty badass. It worked out way better than expected.
Yeah.
So can't complain there. And it fits all the stock mounting points, so I didn't have to drill any new holes in the frame or weld anything to the frame. So that turned out pretty good. And once this is done, or I guess now really, that opened up the window to do the fender cut, because that seat there bolts all the way back here, which is pretty low speed. So
Who needs a fender that long?
right. So to achieve that cut fender, I had to create a seat that didn't require or didn't rely on this bolt back here, which we now have. The only other obstacle I have is my taillight is underneath the fender, and I want to lower the rear end of this bike so this fender, sits a half inch above that tire, so it looks a lot smoother, a lot cleaner. And to achieve that look, I need to get rid of that taillight that takes up space, and I need to cut this fender back. So I'll get some other taillights that bolt in somewhere in here, some small little round ones to face the rear on both sides, chop this fender up to this blue line, and then slam that bike down. So I'll get some new rear struts for it. And then it'll give it a much more like raked look to it, I guess, or the rear end will sit much lower.
I got an idea.
Yeah.
Stretch out. We'll stretch these up a little bit, cut that whole swing arm off, and then just hardtail that motherfucker, and you can have whatever you want.
I think before I do that, I'll buy a half frame.
Yeah.
I'll just buy a hardtail frame.
Hardtail frame.
Still enjoy this bike, have a lot of fun, tinker with it, and then ground up.
Completely designed exactly what you want to your specs.
Right.
Da-da-da-da.
And just pull a motor from whatever, build a motor, get
Like a big fucking 114.
put some cams in it, like make it pretty hot.
Yeah.
And stick it in there, and then
You have to get compression releases in the jugs and shit.
yeah, I've actually been looking. There's a motor for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The guy bought the motor, knew it had compression releases. I just learned about this. I didn't know what this was.
Yeah.
And then he thinks it's a brand new motor from a shop, and he is concerned with, I guess, the power it's going to make. He just wants to build this is all on the Facebook post, but he wants to build like just a cruiser or just a cool little rider. So yeah, like
What's his problem? He's worried about it being too powerful?
I guess, I think.
Well, just because you drive a Lambo, you don't have to do 200.
Right. But if you're just wanting to putz around and have a little fun,
the compression releases really only come into play when you go to start it.
Right.
So it's just a
But
bigger,
just having that snap might be too much for
until you wrap out the motor that you have, you go, man, I wish I had a little more.
I mean, true.
You know what I'm saying?
But
You
it's
might
like
not be looking for that though.
yeah, but it's like I don't know, like the fastest car you've ever been in, not necessarily like a street car. As wild as this sounds, even a 500 horsepower street car, take a Mustang, a regular fuel injected,
Yeah.
put whatever on it, get it tuned. The timing ramp on a Mustang. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with how timing kind of works generally, but let's just imagine there is too much timing. But let's imagine for shits and giggles here, as timing increases, you create more power.
Okay.
There is a drop off that gets dangerous,
Sure.
but essentially that's how that works. On a street car, they make a nice gradual ramp. So you'll hit 500, but it's a buildup.
Yeah.
On the race cars that I've built, you lock the timing out.
Yeah.
So it's 500 all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're driving one of these race cars, if you smack that throttle, I mean, it's all the power right now. And it blows the tires off. And that's why.
I guess that's pretty drastic.
That's why the Lambo thing.
Yeah.
And again, I'm new to the bike thing. So
I hear you.
You've rode more than I have, and maybe it's different, but I'm guessing that if it's a hot enough motor and you're cruising, you hit a bump, your hand kind of bumps a little bit, or you let that clutch out or whatever, you just roll. I don't know.
That big, fat, nasty motherfucker with that front tire had compression releases on his, and you could ease into it and go.
Well, yeah, maybe I'm
through
wrong.
The drive-through and do whatever other bullshit you would want to do. Go to the bank or something. I hear what you're saying. It's a very different thing. And I've never heard anyone that said, well, you know what I'd really like is a little bit less power.
Yeah.
The dudes I rode with they couldn't squeeze enough out of the motherfucker. It was
Just every
not
inch.
happy. Yeah, let's go faster.
Right.
And it's like, dude, we're kind of like,
But back to the conversation of most people will buy something and ride and enjoy it. It's a very streetable.
and that's cool.
My buddies' bikes, their sport bikes, on paper are a higher mile per hour, so higher top end, faster technically,
Right.
and quicker. So their 0 to 60 time or their quarter mile
sure.
is quicker, and I'm sure it is. But when I ride with those guys, you can't tell their bikes are on. They're so quiet.
Yeah.
And they're just riding. When I roll into that throttle, I mean, you can punch it. Carbureted, it's so different for fuel injection carbureted, even for cars. But when you punch it, I mean, you can feel
for sure
that extra fuel, that accelerator pump smack. You
Yeah.
can feel that butterfly whip open.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different feeling.
Absolutely. Well, like I was telling you, dude,
But it's raw, you know?
if those dudes on whatever street bike they have, they're not riding it hard enough, because those things, you can video whatever you want. They walk away from a Harley.
Sure.
There's just no, I mean, it's like the Tesla and the Mustang. It's just not happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are race fucking
You just
bikes.
can't replace the sound.
Yeah.
The
For sure.
feeling,
But so you can have the Hayabusa, the Gixxer, or whatever, and not we're at your garage, and not ride it like it's supposed to be designed to be ridden.
right.
Or you can have loud and dirty and nasty. I'll go loud and dirty. And
But
nasty.
even-
sport bikes are fun though. They're
Yeah.
a lot of fucking fun.
Right. There's no hate on it by any means.
Yeah.
But that like rat roddy, just mean,
Yeah.
loud, and I had a truck, an S10, that I put a small block in. You couldn't go through the drive-through unless you would turn it off, 3 cars back, let them all go through, start it, pull up, turn it off, order, turn it back on, pull up the window, turn it off.
Really.
I would get so many people would yell out of their car at me.
Yeah.
We used to go to McDonald's all the time. The
Yeah.
McDonald's worker
Can you turn that thing
can't
down?
hear you.
Right.
It's
Right.
absurd.
Sir.
And there's just something
Sir.
about sitting at a light
Yeah, sure.
or like in a car and it's just loping,
Ready to
you
rock.
know, or
Yep.
this thing when you're going and you downshift and just hammer. I mean, there's just something about it that's different.
Well, and especially now, with this weather, like getting into like the mid to lower 60s and shit at night, everything just runs better on those
You just-
cool
yeah.
nights, dude. And that's what I was telling you, man. Like, you'll figure it out when you start riding with other dudes and shit. But like downtown, where there's 30 of you and
The
like,
acoustics or
dude, it just bounces off, and you can see the windows in the buildings just fucking rolling out. And I mean, who's not gonna just stoplight to stoplight, just whole shot it every fucking? I mean, so like, you gotta just be pulling over and getting fuel all the time, because you go through downtown St. Louis and whole shot every stoplight you come to, and it's like, fuck, we gotta go.
yeah.
And the law's coming anyway, because it's obnoxiously loud. It's ridiculous. Those
Too
people,
much.
yeah, they pay $3,000 a month.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
those stupid
no
laws
shit.
on Washington. You just go by there and fucking wake everybody up, because fuck you for living in that stupid loft. We're fucking North County assholes, and we're gonna come out here and fuck up your world, and that's why they hate us. But it's what it is. What else is going on? So this is your new thing. I can tell that like it's morning, noon, and night,
Yeah.
and I completely get it.
Yeah.
It's infectious.
It's pretty badass.
Yeah.
I love working on shit. And again, back to the car thing. I live with my dad right now, so there's no way. I've already asked about it, but there's no way to put a car in that driveway and to do what I want to do to it. So I was thinking, well, what else can I do? What haven't I done? And then with the motorcycle thing, and then I thought more about it, and then kind of all trickled downhill, and now I'm where I'm at with that. And surprisingly, my dad's kind of thinks it's kind of cool. I mean, he won't say it, but he'll kind of come out and see what's going on,
Sure.
listen to it a little bit, and
It is kind of gnarly that so you rode dirt bikes as a kid. It's a very different.
not a ton, but a little
But
bit.
it's
Yeah.
a very, whatever way you cut it up,
Yeah.
even if you rode them for a long time. Yeah, it's a motorcycle, but you sit different. It's a whole different thing. But it's kind of gnarly that you went a while away and picked up a bike without really, because when Nick told me he went and got him, I'm like, I didn't even know he rode. He's like, I don't know how much. He's like, he rode when he was a kid, and I'm like, and he just went and got a fucking Harley. So I mean, getting on it and going for it.
I never shifted a bike till I bought this.
Oh well, see, there you go.
If
That's like
if that tells you anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I drive manual car, and you tell me the shift pattern,
Exactly.
I got it.
That's the deal.
Yeah, and so yeah, my first time riding it, I literally bought it, drove it home, rolled it off the trailer, and the guy showed me how to start it. And I know neutrals between 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean,
and 1's all the way down.
yeah.
So found neutral, rock it back, just like a car. You can rock the car if you really had to, but it's easy to find neutral in a car. Anyway, rocked it, found neutral, kicked it on, and then pretty much just started tearing around the neighborhood.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, I've killed it twice by accident because I have music in my helmet.
Yeah.
It's definitely not louder than the bike. But sometimes, like I'm on my way to the gym, I take my pre-workout before I go to the gym because I can't drink it while I ride.
Yeah.
So I'll drink it, and usually it happens at the same stoplight. It's the stoplight before I make the final approach, and I'll be sitting there jamming out, just thinking about the lift, what I'm going to
The
do.
hair on your neck starts growing. You're like,
Starting to itch.
Yeah.
And then light turns green, and I just let the clutch out without giving it
happens,
enough.
dude.
And I'm like, damn it. And everybody has their windows down,
Yeah.
looks over at me.
Yeah.
But I got to make them. So I start up and wham!
Yeah.
And I smack it.
The clutch cable broke. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
It's
I can't.
it's the worst.
Right.
It is the worst.
But
I feel like such a turd. But I mean,
whatever.
I killed the first manual vehicle I drove. I said at a stoplight, it was a 91 Cavalier. And I had the clutch down. I mean, I knew, like,
Generally.
yeah, because I had been riding clutch four-wheelers and dirt bikes and shit as a kid. And so that wasn't my issue. It's just that I had never done it with my foot like that. And dude, I thought I was standing on the motherfucker in the car. It wouldn't turn on. It was like $1,000 piece of shit Cavalier. I love the car because it was mine. But I guess I wasn't standing on it all the way. And finally I'm like, motherfucker. And it cranked over. I'm like, oh, bitch, you just weren't.
Yeah, there's that switch.
You just weren't kicking it hard enough, So, but like there were two people pulled up behind me and shit. I'm like, come on around, my piece of fuck broke down again. But yeah, I mean, whatever. If you're gonna kill it while you're learning it, that's
Yeah,
just
it's
what
like
it is,
Nick.
so.
I was telling him I want to get it. He's like, man, I don't know if you should. He's like, and I was telling him, yeah, I don't road shit. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. And he's like, that's exactly what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
You're going to get out there. You're going to have a lot of fun on it, but you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, but you didn't. I mean, you started smaller scale, but when you were 5 or whatever, and you hopped on your first four-wheeler,
yeah,
you didn't know.
yeah.
It's the same shit. I mean,
the consequences might be a little bit different if things go wrong, but
yeah, but how I see it is everybody is stuck in that cycle in life.
absolutely.
Of, nobody's ever done it. Like let's say in their family. Oh, well, we've never done it. We don't know how, whatever. Okay. And most people go, well, there's probably a reason, or since there's not somebody to tell me how to do it or to teach me. That's it.
Yeah.
And I always look at it as, oh, so nobody's done it? Sweet. I'll go freaking do it. And then all you guys can watch me win.
Yeah.
That's
But a lot of people do it. So there's got to be a reason why it's
this isn't impossible.
right.
I see people ride all the time.
Right.
And I consider myself above like the average person.
Yeah.
So if the average dude can go ride a bike, if that goober can make it happen,
Yeah.
I think I got this handled.
Yeah.
That's kind of always been my outlook.
Well,
Even when it comes to working out, people, oh yeah, well you
shouldn't lift that heavy. It's bad for your shoulder.
Yeah, or what? Okay, fine. I mean, sure. Or I was trying to hit my weight goal. Oh well, nobody in our family is even remotely athletic like that. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Because at some point in the generational lineup, everybody at one point was like in shape, right? You had to work. You go way back in ancestors, right? I mean, like if I'm here today, somewhere my ancestors was hunting fucking mammoths.
Yeah, it wasn't an option. Yeah.
And I'm definitely not good enough to do that.
Yeah.
So if that dude could do it, we just got softer over time?
Right.
Well, I don't want to keep that cycle
It was a
going.
choice.
Right.
Whereas then it wasn't.
Yeah.
You had to.
You can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to come back. And it's just everything that I do, when it comes to
I'm going through it with
freaking-
my stupid computer right now.
Right.
I got
Who
a
can teach you?
brand new MacBook Pro, the fucking Sonoma 14 something. I don't even know
Some
what
badass
this thing is.
Yeah.
But and so I do this to myself. I'll get like stressed out because I want to be proficient and like 100% at it on day one. And it's like, dude, so it stressed me out the first day. First of all, it was an expense, right? But it's
Yeah,
something that I want for my podcast. I want to do it for voiceover work. Alicia's starting a podcast. Like there's a lot of things that being an iPhone dude, it's going to help me, so it's going to make my life easier. This little passion thing I got going on, it's going to make it a lot easier. But there's a learning curve with that too. Right. And so the first podcast I ever did, I'm still very new in learning that, but it's like, I didn't know how to do that then.
Yeah. And if you just look back, when was your first podcast? How many months ago would you say?
Oh, dude, about 16 years, something like no. I don't know. I got 30 of them, I think. So whatever that means. 40 weeks. Whatever.
Okay. So go back less than a year. And if you
Right.
listen to your first one, not that it's bad, but you would probably laugh at yourself and go, holy shit, I would have changed this and this and this and
Everyone.
whatever. And that's less than a year.
Yeah.
So you just keep looking back and keep looking, and it's crazy to watch the leap, even though that first couple of days you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, or the computer, whatever. A month from now, you're gonna be laughing at yourself and getting frustrated.
I always do this.
Yeah.
When it's like, it'd be one thing if you worked for Apple and you designed the MacBook Pro and you were a buddy of mine and I could just go sit down with you, but I probably wouldn't learn as much, right? Because now I got the old computer that's dying on YouTube, how to blah, blah, blah on the MacBook Pro. And then that video is running and telling me I'm doing it on this one. So, it's just that whole thing about figuring it out. But again, it's unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I always look at it as like, if you don't, to gain the knowledge, right? There's like two ways, I guess, really to do it. You can like outsource it by like buying it or somebody telling you or whatever.
Right.
Sure, that learning curve is going to spike, right? You're going to learn a lot more in a shorter amount of time.
Sure.
Or the other option is you just invest a lot of your time.
Right.
And that will create the same effect. You'll get the same end result.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like when it comes to motorcycles for me, nobody, like besides talking to you, but I don't know anybody. Like when I'm out or I'm at my house and I'm working on it or the stuff that I've done, I don't know anyone. There's nobody really to reach out to. I don't hang out with anybody. So I have to just invest the time.
Yes.
I have the time. I don't have the money or the know-how. So I'm going to invest the time.
Yeah.
And that's going to end up creating the same effect. And the same way with you. Like we were talking about how many miles I put on this bike already. And I still think there's a lot to learn. I still don't have the perfect shift.
Of course.
I'm still learning it. But that amount of time just dumped into it.
Yeah. Well, it's reps.
Right. If it takes you 500 hours of riding, let's say, to be an expert, let's just throw that number out there. 500 hours could take you 10 years, or 500 hours could take you a month.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, it's up to you and how you want to do it.
For sure.
So when I put 3 hours on the bike every day, take somebody who rides, once a week for half an hour, I'm leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with even this podcast thing, just ripping them out, man. Just doing it. It's going to work.
But then there's that weird thing where if you, for the podcast thing, just because you said it, I also don't just want to put something out every week because I said I would put something out every Monday. Because if it's not like good or I don't have anybody to talk to, going downstairs, I've told you my life story already. I go to fucking sporting events 3 times a week if I'm not at work, and then games on the weekends, So it's like I don't want to keep going through that monotony of. So it's like but then that falls on me to schedule somebody, or now that I've got this computer, download this new software where it's better than Zoom, better than the app Zoom, quality wise. So I can reach out to the dudes who live all over the world.
There you go. Yeah.
That I know and all over this country, and have a little thing with them. But Alicia's not coming downstairs to show me how to do that. So-and-so is not. I mean, they might go, oh man, this is a good app or this is a good website to use, but nobody's going to come sit at my house probably and do that.
But it's always reaching for that next goal.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And you're doing it. I mean, yes, you're putting out content, but you're finding.
It's a slow process, but
right. But
it's
you're search. I mean, you're working it,
Yeah.
man. Like,
yeah.
it's the same. Somebody goes to the gym every day, but does the same thing. Like, there's just not an improvement.
Yeah.
You didn't put in the hours to
Yeah.
become what you wanted. You're just doing the same
The
shit.
plateau.
Right. And it's like with this, all this BS that I'm doing to it that's not perfect right now, and whatever, it's kind of ratty, or it's not a hard whatever, all that stuff. Like, it took me buying the bike to learn that in the bike community, a hardtail is cooler than a softtail. I didn't know that. I didn't even know, as dumb as it sounds, I didn't even know what a softtail was till I bought it
Yeah.
and talked to you about it.
I had to tell you about the Sportster thing, which I felt bad doing, but
No.
I just wanted to be real.
I think it's great because I would
if
never.
I don't tell you,
right, and I would never know.
yeah,
And now there's something to look towards.
Yeah.
Right? There's a way up.
yeah,
So
and you'll take everything from this one,
Right.
just like we do.
I
Live.
can screw everything up.
Well, yeah, and then so the next one will be the boom, and then that one after that, you're gonna go. You know what I really
You create
want
the
is
ideas.
a fucking bagger with
Yeah.
airbags and like a radio or whatever fucking people do with baggers.
Mhm. Like, I'm just learning how to, as wild as it's on a car, when I want to put a bigger tire, let's say, as long as it doesn't hit a fender, you just put a new tire on.
Or tub it out. Yeah,
It's like how my
Yeah,
brain
yeah,
sees
yeah.
it. This is just not that.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking at putting a new, or not necessarily new, but a bigger front wheel on it.
yeah,
You can't just, it's not, I mean, I guess we all knew, but it's not just go buy a bigger rim. It's like, okay, well, what size rotors do I have?
spacing
'Cause,
issues.
right, spacing,
Yeah.
rotor sizes are different. The axle diameter, I had no freaking clue.
Yeah.
That's not uniform. I didn't even,
Believe it or not, the
Question.
thing needs to be straight. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
needs
yeah.
to be flush and like
right. And then I have two calipers that both rotors have to line up with.
Sure.
That to be perfect with.
Or you're burning brake pads and then
Right. And I don't know all this shit.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of
yeah.
figuring it out.
Well, I went to school for 2 years and I forgot most of all of it. I think so.
It's still a hell of a lot more than I know.
Yeah,
I like the carburetor thing. I went to Harley today. So I went after. So on all the reading I've done, when you take a Harley, I can only speak for Harleys. It's all the research I've done. But when you take a Harley and you put a new intake on it or air cleaner or whatever, and then you put pipes on it, you're allowing more air in, more air comes out, since an engine's an air pump, and it uses fuel to match a ratio. So if you have, again, just random numbers, but if you have 1 part air and 1 part fuel, and now you're doing 2 parts air, you have to make 2 parts fuel.
sure.
That's not the actual ratio,
Right.
but
Or as close to it as you can.
yeah, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And so you want to correct that. I know how to work on carburetors from cars, but I don't know a damn thing about bikes.
Yeah.
So to create a stage 1 upgrade, which is your first upgrade from stock, is an intake, pipes, and a tune or a carburetor rejet. I don't freaking know what the jets are in these freaking bikes. So I went to Harley to buy jets, asked the guys there. They all told me, I have no clue, man. So back to square one.
Yeah. All the new bikes are computers.
Right. No freaking idea. Back to square one. All right. So today I woke up, got some food, went to the Harley shop, came back to my house and sat in my garage on the floor watching YouTube, turning, and then I don't have the right tools. So now I'm freaking making tools
Yeah.
in my garage to
YouTube-
stupid shit.
YouTube's the way of the world. Man.
Yeah. And it's awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, just dumb tools, taking screwdrivers and bending them. And I was taking a file because all the freaking flatheads I have were too wide,
Yeah.
too thick, and the head was too wide. So I was filing them down, making them pointier, and bending them to fit. Just dumb shit.
It's gotta happen.
But I mean,
it's gotta
it
happen.
freaking worked.
Yep.
So
Well, hey, dude, I gotta get going. I gotta go home and go to sleep.
yeah.
I think probably it's about close to being that time.
All right.
Thanks for letting me talk to you about this.
BS in a little bit.
Yep.
Hopefully next time we'll have a update with some photos.
We'll
or
come back
something
when we
and-
wrap that thing up and chop the fender and do some other shit.
Yeah, we got a little bit of work to do.
It'll be cool.
Lower it a little too, and
Hey, thanks for
flames.
stopping by the shop with us. If you wouldn't mind, like and subscribe and do me a favor. So, I don't know, just because it'd be a cool favor.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Talk to you later.